Recently, the US government ramped up its efforts to shut down RT, the Russian state funded news outlet. They have even launched a diplomatic campaign using US, Canadian, and the UK diplomats to try and convince other countries to block RT from their airwaves. The main targets? Countries in Latin America, the Middle East, and Africa, regions where the US has struggled to win support for its foreign influence. At a press conference, the US State Department official James Rubin openly blamed RT for why so many nations have not fully backed Ukraine in its conflict with Russia. Rubin said that RT's broad reach and influence in these areas have made it harder for the West to rally support. But here is the thing, countries in the global south are not exactly rushing to follow the US's lead. In fact, many of them are pushing back against what they see as an overreach by the US government. They don't appreciate being told what news they can and cannot watch, and many see the move as a modern version of colonialism, where the West tries to control the narrative for everyone else. Take India, for example. The Hindu, one of the country's top newspapers, reported that while US officials have approached India about banning RT, Indian government officials have brushed it off. They said the whole debate about sanctions is not relevant to India. Even a former Indian diplomat chimed in, calling the US move a clear example of Western double standards. Another Indian publication, Financial Express, echoed the sentiment. They noted that India has a strong connection with Russia and values freedom of the press, so it is unlikely to take action against RT. The channel actually has a significant viewership in India, especially among English speaking audiences. Meanwhile, in the Middle East, media outlets are also speaking out. Saudi Arabia's Okaz paper pointed out the irony of the US banning RT under the guise of protecting free speech. They noted that when speech threatens the US narrative, it suddenly gets labeled as dangerous and misleading. But when the West criticizes other countries, they call it freedom of the press. The hypocrisy is hard to miss. Lebanon's Al Akhbar newspaper took it a step further, saying the US and its allies fear RT because it offers a different view that challenges the Western narrative. If RT is so full of lies, they asked, why are Western governments so afraid of it? Surely viewers would be smart enough to figure that out for themselves, right? And it is not just the Middle East. In Latin America, Uruguay's Caras y Caritas praised RT for its truthful editorial line and for offering a fresh view on global issues. They argue that the US sanctions against RT are just an attempt to silence any narrative that does not align with Western interests. In Africa, media outlets are also raising their voices. Nigeria's The Whistler highlighted how absurd it is for Western governments to make decisions about what African audiences can or cannot watch. They noted that one day RT was just gone from their screens, all because of decisions made in Washington and Brussels. It was a stark reminder that African voices were not even consulted. Despite all these efforts, RT is not going anywhere. In fact, the outlet recently lit up the US Embassy in Moscow with their bright green logo and the message, "We are not going away." It is clear that while the US may have hoped to silence RT and Russia's voice, the global south is not interested in playing along. As more countries push back against these censorship attempts, it is becoming obvious that RT's Russia's voice is not only still relevant, it is thriving in parts of the world that the US had hoped to influence.